Players Pick Podcast, picks and perspective with Chris Johnson. Pool table. Painkiller. Palindrome.
Cool.
My man, what's going on?
Dude. Look at your space.
Yeah, man, I rearranged my entire room so we could fit this like new set inside the studio room. It makes for the ugliest podcast background ever.
It's okay, man. It's okay.
Is my audio good?
Yeah, it sounds great.
Okay, perfect.
You can hear me well too?
Yours sounds really good.
Okay. Wonderful.
Man, I'm so glad we could finally do this. I really wanted to do it in person when I came to shoot that video, but we'll do it again.
Yeah, this is a temporary fix, you know.
I'm glad we can still do it. Like it's sweet that you didn't have to put everything on hold.
Same. I kind of started to, like, in the beginning, the first couple of weeks, I was like, I'll just wait and see how this goes. Oh wait, this isn't really going to go away anytime soon,
dude. I know.
Man, it's been a minute though. I mean, like, I would have loved to have you here, especially just because I love the vibe of having somebody in the room.
Oh, it's so good.
Handing them guitars and stuff. Like, you're wearing a hat. Have you been able to cut your hair or no?
Dude, that's why I'm wearing the hat.
look at me, dude. Like this, I haven't had my sides this long in forever.
Dude, you've never looked so good.
I went and cut the beard back, and then like the all the hair on my head is like growing, and I'm just like, oh, bro.
Oh my god, yo! I hadn't shaved for like a week, and I just did this morning because I remember we were doing video, and I was like, I can't hit people with two major changes in the same video.
Right?
They're gonna be like, that's not you.
Like it's a stunt double, you know. Well, dude, I'm sure you're probably keeping pretty busy because it's not like necessarily like a big shift for you to deal with this. Right, because you're like normally home, like writing and recording and filming anyway.
Yeah, like it's not that much of a different vibe. And I was joking. I live with two of my best friends, and I was joking with them for like a year plus. I was like, man, I could definitely go for like a pause on life for like a bit. And then it actually happened, and I was like, this is no different than what I typically do. But I feel really fortunate for the ability that I can still, like, honestly, the last month has been the most productive month of my entire life. Like, it's been fantastic. And I've always been like asking for that extra time to write more original songs, because they take so much more time to do than what I typically do for YouTube. And now I've had the time to like put that in and learn new skills, learn new video editing skills. I've been cooking a lot, so I've been like super pumped. Yeah, it's been good. But I'm ready for everything to get back to normal too, because as we were talking, when we were planning this out originally, I was going to come down and see you in LA when I was shooting the music video for my new single, and we had to push that off. And like, this song is cursed, man. I've been sitting on this thing for a year and a half, and I'm super stoked on it. And every time we try to get together to shoot the video, like, something happens.
And this is an original song?
Yeah, it's the last installment. I did like a 5-song EP. Started in 2018, and this song has been like the last one on it, and I wanted to release them all as singles, and it just killed the momentum of that whole thing. Wow. Because every time we went to go do this video, something would happen. But I don't think anyone's really going to care that much. Once it's out, it's out. So
yeah, well, it's interesting, because I have this conversation with a few different friends from time to time about our own false timelines that we put on ourselves. And it's a kind of an interesting thing. And I remember when it was first kind of introduced to me, like, I think I was in I was probably at Mackie. It's how I remember it anyway, Mackie/Ampeg back in the day. And it was like we were in some sort of marketing meeting, and somebody said, "Hey man, don't put some false timeline on my project."
Whoa.
I was like, I'm totally saving that for later, because that's like the best comeback ever.
Dude, that's such a clapback.
Like, my creativity doesn't need your false timelines, bro.
Damn.
And So, I started over the years, it's made me think kind of more and more whenever I would say, oh, well, I've got to get it done by, and I'm like, wait, is that true? Is that true? Do I actually, is there a timeline that really I mean, because we're beholden to ourselves, especially somebody like yourself that is self-employed, that really has you've created your own thing. And so it's like, is there somebody over your shoulder that's telling you, Cole, you better have it done? Or is that you? Yeah.
Dude, I'm the worst boss ever.
Well, it's probably
Like,
why you're so productive, though.
thank you. Man, yeah, there definitely is something to be said for that, because like most of the time it plays out really well in your favor when you do set deadlines for yourself, but it's really easy to become unrealistic with it. And you're like, man, it sometimes maybe, dude, in creative careers, it can really, your product can suffer big time if you just get focused on like the quantity of what you're putting out. And like everyone that does the YouTube model can vouch for that for sure, because it feels like people fall into the quantity over quality
Right.
model a lot. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to take a step back.
Yeah, well, I've learned a lot from watching all of you, and you in particular too, because I know, I mean, seeing where you started, and seeing like, even in the beginning, you put a lot of attention to the detail, for the videos and the way you edit and everything. I think has been really nice to see you also grow within that sphere, and you're always trying to take it up a notch. And I have thought about this more than a few times. I'm like, how does one such as Cole Rolland, that has such a high quality of output, always have something to put out? Like,
Man, thank you. That
dude,
that means so much.
it's a lot.
It's crazy to think that we first like started talking when I was like 17. So like you knew me when I was like a
That's
kid,
right.
man. It's crazy. Though there's been one big strategy that has helped so much with like the content output, and it's proven to be so useful, especially right now, is whenever I do my photo shoots, I do one every year, like a big one, and we'll pick a city and we'll go to like a bunch of different locations in that city. I'll bring like a bunch of different outfits and stuff, and it looks like we shot them on multiple different days. So I have like hundreds of different photos for Instagram and social media and stuff that I'm sitting on that I can just kind of post as like filler content between videos. And then whenever my videographer comes over, we shoot minimum 2, maximum 3 videos. So that's like a month worth of videos right there. And he's not coming over right now. So I'm sitting on like 6 videos, and I'm hoping that tides me over until this is all done. But that's given me the time to now work on the original stuff and not have to worry as much about YouTube, because it's already kind of taken care of. So that kind of strategy has alleviated so much stress, because I'll come up with the ideas up front, shoot everything, stockpile a bunch of footage. It's like, it'd be like you stockpiling a bunch of podcasts, and then you can focus on other things that you wanted to start.
Right.
Yeah, I think we actually talked about this at NAMM this past year. And yeah, I've found, at least for me personally, that works so much better to do like an 8 to 10 hour shoot day, and then have the content set for the month. And then I can focus on other things.
Well, you've got it figured out. I mean,
Thank you, man.
That's literally kind of the same, almost exact approach that we would do at Dunlop when I'd get okay to do a video project of some kind, or have fly artists in or something. It's like, okay, cool. So you're not just doing one video, right? Correct.
Yeah.
We're not doing just one video for $10,000. We're not doing that. we're going to do 4, like,
oh man. Yeah. The Dunlop videos look so good.
Dude, that's such a good creative team there. And I learned so much. And you have, out of a lot of the people, can attest to like seeing me show up at EMG and doing a lot of great work there with that team, and then getting to graduate to Dunlop, and their team being just like about 10 people deeper, and like just a bigger backing. And but to consider, when I look backwards though, I look back at EMG and I'm like, yo, you guys were bringing the fire. Like nobody had their own studio, like with a jib, like when Tosin and Wave of Babies, that first like big video that hit, like nobody had that shit. Nobody was really that far ahead. So like I have to really give props to Rob Turner for like, he didn't just like find a spot in his factory to go do it. He goes, no, I'm going to buy another building. I'm going to like fill it full of all this stuff and put a dude there that works full time just shooting videos,
Man, it's such a good point, because let's like rewind to when those first like popped off, like 2012, 2013, nobody was doing that. And it showed in the viewership and how much those exploded. Like you said, like the Tosin videos, the first like Andy James videos that he did there and stuff, they exploded because those videos were like, they were like movie style playthroughs. They looked amazing.
It was so much fun. I mean, right before, they opened that thing right before I took the job. And I remember like getting offered the gig at EMG. And when I was trying to explain to other coworkers at Ampeg and Mackie, like what I was going to go do, I was like, I'm not going to tell you, I'm going to show you. Look at this. I'm going to go work in this studio. And I don't know anybody else that, I mean, I'm getting the opportunity to be like a co-producer on like a TV set, but also get to rep EMG pickups. I mean, like, this is kind of like a super sick opportunity. And everybody's like, yeah, okay, I get that. And then, did the thing with all those awesome players there. And maybe there's so many good memories from EMG TV, but like, dude, flying Zach Wild in, bro, like, and was like the text battle up until getting him to come like take this little like small plane into Santa Rosa and to do these videos was such an interesting thing, because like it was like I felt weird like telling Zach, I'm like, yo, there's these things called backing tracks, right? And he's like, yeah, brother. And I'm like, yeah, well, like there's this. And at first the first couple times I tried to explain it to him, he was kind of like, nah, like,
dude, no,
I'm good. Like, I mean, I make my own music. Like, I don't need to make, and I'm like, I know that, but like, what if we made something really interesting where I got a backing track that you actually liked, that you vibed with, and then you don't have to like come up with the song. You just come in and rip. Like, I don't even like, I just trust that you're going to rip. So dude, let's do it. And so like, he kind of came around, and finally I was like, look, dude, like I would explain to you who Andy James is, but it'd be easier if I just sent you a couple of his backing tracks and you choose one. And like, he's like, yeah, okay, I like the second one. All right, cool. Then that one's yours. So when you come in here, just have like rehearsed a little bit, like just know a little bit about what you're gonna play, and then just go. And I don't even think he really ever played through the whole thing once before he came there.
No.
But he kind of came in and slayed like.
He's such a rock star, man.
Such a boss. And I mean, I still to this day, every once in a while I pop on that video. I'm like, oh, it's got how many millions of views? Because like, it's like that thing where if I had it my way, I would do that with like every artist. I would have my own studio like EMG TV, my own thing. And I'd have you come in and we'd get somebody else that created a Al Joseph backing track, and Cole Rolland's playing over it, so we'd mix up the vibe all the time, where it's like, hey, I know that you're expecting Cole to play his thing. Well, he will, but they're also going to do this.
I love that, man. That's such a good idea. And I remember when that Zach Wild playing over Andy's backing track first came out, and it wasn't even like a slow burn to pick it up. It just like blew up immediately. And I messaged you and I was like, was this your idea? And you're like, yeah.
and what's way more hilarious to me than anything about that whole thing is that Jam Track Central actually came on board. So I sold God, it cracks me up thinking about it. But I sold Jam Track Central on the idea of like, yo, I'm gonna have Zach Wild show up, because it was a Jam Track Central backing track, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, I've got Andy on board. Of course he's okay with Zach playing over his track. Okay, we don't even need to talk about that. Like, it's already a okay thing. And you guys are cool with it because that's cool for you guys. But what if he comes in and slays and you guys transcribe what he plays? And they said yes to it, but then that was before they ever heard it.
Before they heard it.
So out there somewhere, man, like you can get the transcription to that fucking performance, and I'm just like, the fact that did anybody buy that? Did anybody try to like? And it's like it's good promo because like it's got millions upon millions of hits, and it's like polarizing because some people are like, Zach's an old guy, he doesn't really know what he's doing, he just keeps shredding, and then there's all the Zach fans that are like, Zach's the best, and this is the most amazing thing of all time. So, oh man, it cracks me up to think that, and they they bitched and complained a little bit.
Dude, that's so funny though. Like, and polarizing is like the best word to describe that too. I find that's so much with some of the crazier covers that I've done on YouTube and stuff, and the most popular comment is always tabs, and I was like, oh my god, man, like, do you really want them though?
Because I don't know that you say you want this, but I don't think you know what you're saying exactly. A lot of work, buddy.
I love it.
Yeah, I mean, and considering, like I was looking at I love that you just recently did a Buckethead. Or what? No, this isn't a Buckethead song, is it though? Is it a Buckethead?
Okay, I don't know. Like, is Jordan a Buckethead song? I remembered it, but I'm probably gonna take so much heat for this on this podcast.
No, me too, dude. We're both in trouble now.
It's so bad, man. Good thing this isn't live. But like I remember it from Guitar Hero 2, and that was like the song to beat on Guitar Hero 2, and it was just Jordan.
Oh, that's where it was. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when I went on his Spotify and I was looking through this just like immense catalog of songs that he has, I had no idea how many songs that he's written, and I couldn't find it on there. So maybe it is an unlicensed type of, I'm not too sure.
Or maybe it's just for that particular game.
Yeah, it could have been for the game.
Well, I'll sidestep that by saying congratulations on the Tornado of Souls video, because that's like one of my all-time fucking favorite jams, dude. And I had to watch that again the other day.
I got a funny story about that. First of all, thank you.
Yeah.
So I was trying to think of something that was like a big request to kick off like my new video set and stuff for 2020. And I was hanging out with Angel and my friend Christina in New York, like as I was coming up with the concept for what it was going to look like. And I was like, man, what about Tornado of Souls? And Angel's driving me to the airport. And he's like, dude, if you got to do that, you can't fuck around. And I was just like, oh man, it's going to be one of those like very, it's potentially very divisive on people's like response to it and stuff. So I was sending Angel drafts like as I was learning it and stuff. And I remember like I thought I crushed it. Like I thought I had like the best take. Send it to him, and he goes, passable. And I was like, oof. And I was like the YouTuber in me was just like, you got to post a video, but the like artist in me was like, do it right. So I like pulled back on it, went through, like gutted the whole take, learned it right, and I sent it to him, and he's like, I'm so glad you fixed that. And then and that's what it is now.
Dude, well, good on you for running it through Angel's filter, because if there's anybody out there, there's a handful of like players and personalities out there that I think are really good at like playing the producer role. And Angel's one of them. And obviously like you guys have collabed before and have great tracks together and all deals. So I mean, you obviously admire each other as players, and but like I mean, as a phenomenal player that has incredible phrasing and created something of his own, and he also is really interested in the creative process and seeing other people rise to their high, not to his level or wherever he's at, but really interested in seeing your best self,
oh man,
shine.
Dude, absolutely. That's something that I feel you guys have in common, that like make me really value both of you as friends. Is I run so many things by both you guys, and I like really appreciate the feedback always.
Thank you.
Course.
I appreciate the friendship, and I appreciate that somebody out there cares.
Dude, always. Always, man. This is the joke you and I always have, is I've been stalking you your entire career from everywhere you've worked.
Strangely but true. Yeah, it is true, man. And I can't say, thanks enough. But I mean, like, I know that you always come to me like, yo, dude, I'm always so thankful that like you took a chance on me. And like, I wasn't the YouTuber I am now or the player that I am now, but like, but you saw something here, and like we started working together, yeah, I mean, intuition is intuition when you see the quality of player like yourself, presenting the way you were even in those early days. I was just in a unique position to email and message people and be like, yo, you're on fire. Let's like hang out. Let's do some stuff. Like, let me send you some things. Let's work together. Let's be collaborative in our approach to seeing each other be successful. And, I think that at the heart of what a lot of people are doing in the industry is still that, but sometimes they get the kind of the initial quality of that kind of maybe gets lost. It's like, yo, like, let's collab because we both got numbers, or you've got the numbers and I've got the thing. And it's kind of like this mathematical equation.
Yeah.
Versus like when you and and I mean, kind of my approach more than anything with most people is that it's more of it's a feeling / energetic thing. And when I saw, and I have to say, when I saw how you play, like I really liked, because like you're a showman, and you have the like a quality that is that deserves to be on stage. Like that's why I like when you started making these videos and you have like kind of what other guitarists might consider dramatic as far as like your ability to I love that you won't always be so economical with your emotion. Let's put it that way, right?
Yeah.
Like, so
that's the nicest way of putting that.
Yeah, I'm thankful for
I
that.
love you, man.
I love you too, dude. Like, and that's what I saw. That I was like, this guy is not trying. He is obviously, you're very accurate in everything you did, but you weren't trying to like keep it too close and too tight. And it was like you're like, no, you could see that you were getting a lot of joy out of it, that it made you happy. Like when I saw you smile and then you would dig into a lead line or a riff or anything, I was like, that's what we're supposed to be doing. That's what this is about. And so like, can I support, can I help improve this person's life through my platform? And my platform at the time was EMG, right? And it was like what I had to offer.
Oh man.
So,
dude, so much love for you, man. Like, and it's so true. You were one of the first people that like really mattered, that ever like believed in what I was doing and what I wanted to do. And it opened so many doors for me because you answered that email. So it's like, it's crazy to think about the butterfly effect of that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm happy to be a part of it.
Absolutely. And like, that makes me, cause I think about that stuff all the time. Like anytime that we've hung out in the past couple of years, now being in the fortunate position that I'm in now, I want to be able to do that for other people. And I do that for other people. And like you said, trusting your intuition when you're like, man, this person's got it going on. It's nice to see that be like a good recommendation.
Yeah. Well, and especially when like now that you've for a while, you've had quite a great platform to like highlight other players and do these great collabs where you lift each other's spirits and vibration in general in the online sphere. There's something like when you get, let me see how I say it. It's like when somebody models a certain thing for you, right? That maybe you had a clue that it was available, but like, until somebody comes along and actually is an example of it,
yeah,
you don't necessarily know how it looks or feels in the world. And then so I'm happy to be like this little model, because I had people come to me and do this thing where they showed me kindness, and they showed me in like being genuinely interested in my project or what it is I had to offer.
That holds
right?
so much value, man. It really does.
Right. And then it breeds more inspiration and more creativity, because like, hey, somebody's listening and somebody's interested.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And it
cool.
really does. And like you said there, this has been something that I've found years and years into this that holds so much value to me is having somebody who is just happy to be here and somebody who's like enthusiastic to like collaborate with you or, you know, make your vision come to life. It makes you want to do that for other people, and it makes the overall experience of creating with that person so much better. Like, my videographer is just always so stoked to be here, and he's like man, he'll come over and he won't even ask like what we're shooting today. I was like, man, you know, want to know what song we're doing? He's like, dude, I don't care. I'm just like happy to be here. And I was like, yo, you're the best. Like, I feel so lucky to have people like that in my life, because when it comes down to it, like, you can have someone who does, okay, if you had to pick between two people, someone who is going to do an amazing job but has bad energy, or the inverse of that, I think I'm going to take the person that brings the good energy and is like willing to work hard to eventually get it.
Yep.
Because the overall experience is just so much better.
100%. I oftentimes tell this kind of little mini story in different ways about my brother. When we were younger, he actually, I'm a couple years older than him, but and we have the same dad, different mom, so we're like half brothers, right? So we didn't grow up in the same exact household and everything, but he kind of took the punk route. Like, he was always about like the crusty, like do it yourself like mentality, and like kind of bucking the system, kind of like all these things, which I had, there's always been a piece of that for me too, but there's something about the way that he did it that always inspired me to look at things differently. And I'll never forget that that in the very early days of like wanting to have a band, and we were in the same town, and like he had like a punk band over here, and I was trying to find the right people to be in my metal band. And I remember mentioning somebody, I don't even remember the dude's name now, but it's like, man, maybe I get him to like do the drums, and I get this dude to like be the second guitar or play bass or something. And he's like, do you like those guys? And I was like, well, I mean, I don't have to necessarily like them, like be best friends or whatever, you know, like that was my first response. And he was like, I wouldn't be in a band with anybody that wasn't awesome and that I wasn't inspired by. And like, he had like this boundaried way of like just immediately, you know, and he's only been in a couple of crusty punk bands, but like his do it yourself like resolve within him was like, no, dude, like if they ain't cool, like I ain't fucking with them.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's a good fucking point. Damn.
Put
all right,
that on
little
a
brother,
man. Yeah, put
got
that on
you.
Dude, it's so true though. Anything that like requires sustainability, like that applies 100%.
Yeah. So do you? You said that you kind of like you are getting a somewhat of a break during this time. Like you feel like you've got a little bit of like breathing room, or what?
Man, definitely. Yeah, that's something I think with the timelines we put on ourselves has like dude, I feel so bad for like saying this, but like I feel like I've used that as a crutch to not write as much original music, because it scared me at first. And I was like, man, that's like something that it's a lot more work. It means a lot more. Like, man, when I did 4 singles in 2018, I'm so proud of those 4 songs. And every time I went to go post that online, I wanted to throw up, because I was so nervous, man, because they mean so much more than like my average upload. And now having the following that I've been lucky enough to have now compared to like 6 years ago, like I get so nervous to post a video now, because I know it's gonna get quite a few eyes on it like right away. But luckily, because of what's been going on now, I've been able to apply this time to be very confident in the songs that I'm writing now. And I've got almost enough for a full EP, but everything I want to do, at least right now artistically, requires vocals on it. So I'm now in the process of trying to find the right voices for these songs, and that can prove to be a very difficult task, but sometimes it just works. And that's kind of where I'm at least with work stuff.
Yeah, well, kudos to you for you know, that's real talk around cover songs versus original content, original material, right? That's it's as musicians, like it's on one hand, it's easier to go and cop somebody else's thing and then twist it a little bit to our own thing, and then we will get we'll get flack for how our inflections are and how we decided to translate the song.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, the brunt, the massive amount of like critique can be off put onto the original artist a little bit, right? Like,
Yeah.
I didn't write this song. I'm just giving you a different version of it. Yeah, hey.
Don't shoot the messenger, baby.
That's
Don't
right,
shoot
man. But depending on how much liberty you take with it. But
yeah.
The original material, and I can see like where you're coming from, because like you had all these great videos and all these great successes, and then it's like, okay, this one's all me.
So nervous, man.
Can you try B night? No, you're not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Dude, with Tornado of Souls, I did not change a thing on that cover. I was like, don't do anything different. But yeah, it's weird because the originals become such heavy like passion projects, because like I put so much more into them, and you just hope they don't get slept on, because
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, they just mean a lot more, and in order to keep progressing and in order to maintain relevancy and keep progressing in an artistic and creative career, you have to take risks. So that's something I'm willing to put a lot more risk factor into.
Well, the good news, I think, in that realm is that you're well established as a personality, as a person, as a great player. So like you have all the right foundation, right? And you've had the foundation. So I think, it seems like your original stuff gets to be received pretty well, to be honest, like from what I can tell. I'm sure there's some element where they're like, oh, but like, put out what's the next cover you're going to do, because if somebody gets to know you a certain way on a certain way, they're like, but I don't know this song. You're like, of course you don't. It's brand new. I just made it.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Man, that's so true. One of the bigger risks I took in terms of that too, even people going, I don't know this song, is I came up on doing like metal covers, and then I got really into doing a lot of those like pop and electronic covers, because I didn't see many guitarists doing those. I got so much pushback for like the longest time on those on my channel, and they ended up paying off so big, man, because I got some of like the biggest live show opportunities I've ever had from those. I got some of the biggest artist support I've ever had, in terms of like reposts and like follows and stuff from the artist. And I was like, oh my God, I'm so glad I stuck with this. So I'm going into this new chapter with that same mentality, being like, it might not pay off right away, but it definitely will down the road.
It's an investment, dude.
It is
absolutely an investment, and you have to, and it, like, I mean, I'll go back and say that your work with Lindsey Sterling, like when you did her stuff in the very beginning, that was, I know it was a departure. I know that you were doing that exploration stuff, and look, I mean, I look back at those videos and I'm like, yeah, dude, you did the right thing,
dude. Thank you.
Like, yeah. And not only was it good because like when you cross boundaries like that, and you get a little bit polarized, in some way, you're like, that your fan base is going to kind of go, do I like this? I don't know. I want the old Cole Rolland. The old Cole Rolland would do blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, well, you've only known like this small fraction of me, and I get to learn and grow and diversify just like anybody else. So I big kudos for that. And
thanks, brother.
It's gonna be great to see how that the original stuff evolves for you too, because I always wonder about that too when I think about somebody that's already so talented and diverse doing the things. I mean, I assume, but you have to confirm and tell me, like, do you feel like the original content is informed by all your hard work you've put into copying the skills to do the covers over the years? Do you feel like that you've really kind of gained like in a significant way by doing that?
Absolutely. Like it has there's like a yin and yang to it. So one, covering so many like iconic great songs, you get insight into like why they're so great, and you're like, oh my God, like didn't give this song enough credit until I actually learned it, and I was like, damn, this is awesome. Two, it sets the bar so high when you go to write your own stuff, because you're like, man, I want to write something that good. So it's like it's two sides to that coin for sure. But I definitely see it more in the way that it's like, oh my God, I've learned so many iconic riffs that are known for a reason, and they're this good for a reason. I want to apply those to the song that I'm writing. And there's a strategy that I heard on a music production podcast about a year ago, and I found this to be like so profound, and they called it the song palette strategy. And basically what the guy would do is he's like, okay, I'm going to pick a direction. I want to write, let's say, an ESPN style, like pump up anthem or something. He's like, I'm going to pick 5-6 songs or maybe less in that direction. I'm going to write down things I like about them. So I like the drum beat on this chorus. I like the chord progression on this bridge. And then I'm going to pick one that is like not in that direction at all, and take a couple things that I like from that too. And by the time you've put your own flair on it, brand new vocals, brand new whatever production on it, it's like a completely new creation, and it really helps people get past writer's block. So that's what I've been trying.
I dig that a lot.
It's really cool.
I'm actually, I will say that I too have had some inspiration during this time.
Sure.
Just writing, and it's been able to. I mean, the first couple of weeks when I was kind of like, "What's going on?" Like, am I supposed to just lounge around? Or am I supposed to? Like most of my work for like Kiesel, like this all kind of like came right to like a real slim line. I'm like, okay, I'm just doing this right. Got it, so I was started to wake up, and I know that's not like anything necessarily revolutionary, but I think sometimes musicians, I would say everybody on some level or another, we overthink things, right? We have a lot of ability, we have a lot of possibility within our sphere of our creativity and know-how, and and I've even got all the tools laying around. But like it's that last step of actually having just enough inspiration or curiosity about like the thing or what is possible that will actually make you open the laptop, turn the gear on, and go, I'm gonna try and create something now, and for me, like I've been like basically creating demos since 2008, since my band like kind of like stopped being a thing in Seattle, and I've just been demoing these little things but not really fully finishing or like conceptualizing the thing. I'd have like momentary moments. Oh yeah, that's cool. But in this time, having a couple weeks where I just woke up every day, I'd open up TuneTrack. I'm like, okay, I'm not even gonna be picky about anything. Yeah. I'm gonna say yes to the first cool thing that happens each time.
Yes.
And so I'm out of my option paralysis a little bit, right? So like that's kind of the thing that I noticed. Like I just don't want to have to make a bunch of decisions and overthink something, right? You can do that later down the road if you want to, but like for the initial concept. Yeah. So I would start auditioning beats and just like, well, that's funky. That's cool. Okay, cool. I'll pull that in. Okay, grab my bass. And I'm not a great bass player, but I love the bass. And I would just sit, okay, first good thing that feels connected to that beat. Just record it.
Just do it. Right.
Just do it. And then I've got all this time. Once I've got bass and drums that feel cool, I can just play guitar all day, like on one thing. So, I just gave myself this thing. I'm like, hey, just give yourself, like, try to create something that kind of feels vibey, and don't be attached to like what it's supposed to sound like or where you're going, or because again, for me, I know some people love that. They really feed off of this concept of like, oh, I know what I want, and they set the goals, and I'm not opposed to that. But for me to get going, it's been that. And so I've got like 10 or 15 like song loop starts that I feel like they're gonna hopefully work into an album.
Yes. Oh, I love that, man.
It's exciting just to think about it.
Isn't that weird? Like, everybody's creative process is so different, and like once you kind of find like what works for you and you get that momentum and stuff, I don't want to ever turn it off. I'm like, oh my God, let's just keep going. I don't even want to eat today. Let's just keep making music.
There was a couple of days or during that first couple of weeks where because I would like do like one a day, you know, maybe two in a day, where I would like spend all this time, and depending on how much time I had during the day, because I do have to do other things. But there was like probably 2 or 3 days where I sat here and I was like, whoa, this is the third one I did today. Oh shit. Fine. I'm good with that. Like, and then I'd send it around to a couple of friends like, hey, is this cool? Or am I just like stoned and think this is cool? You know? And like, and that's kind of my, my constant battle is like, I think this is badass. And then like I listen to, or have somebody else listen to it, or I'll press play in front of them, and, or get feedback. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, it's still kind of like amateur in these ways, and like maybe whatever, but you get good constructive feedback through just, letting other people kind of vibe on it and see what they think,
That's super true. And like the best way to get better at anything is to just keep doing it. Like you just got to keep creating. It's like anytime I have friends ask about like growing like a social media account or following or anything like that, it's like, man, you just got to post. You just got to like keep creating, and like you will get better. Like all of us look back on our stuff we made 5 years ago and go, but you have to like make some okay things to make the great stuff for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good point. And it reminds me of like the very first couple times that I had ever recorded myself. Like I remember I had a 4-track tape. I was on a Fostex, like actual tape thing. And I remember, because again, there's this weird objective thing that you have to kind of find for yourself. And it's a reoccurring lesson that happens over and over again, where you're like, oh man, this sounds great. This is awesome. I am so badass. I will record this. And you play it back and you're like, is that me? Is that
there's no way.
no, I sound so, this tape machine must be broken. Like I'm way cooler than, and
so classic.
But there's a really beautiful kind of honesty that can happen, and like a self-exploration that can happen in that process, right? Because
very humbling.
And like you don't even know. I mean, the very beginning, when you very first, like, what was the first time you recorded a riff, and then you're like, okay, I'm gonna jam over this, and you're like rocking your little first position blues or something, whatever you got on. You're like, I am amazing. I am such a slayer right now.
Say it out loud. That's important.
And then,
you do you.
And then you have like the Irish. For me, it was like I have one like guy come over, like, hey, check it out, I did this thing, and it's like a more advanced musician of some kind that come like my buddy OJ. I remember showing him a jam, and then him going, oh, I mean, it's cool, but like maybe you might want to try something, and I was like, oh, it's so easy for you to like slay me, and I spent all this time thinking I was rad. But and it's not about like self-deprecation, but it is about like coming in contact with a sense of reality, right?
Definitely.
And not being too precious with your thing. Like
don't get too attached.
Oh man. And I think
so you get your heart broken, man. Dude, it's me too.
It's the saddest thing. And I think more than anything, now that I kind of am hip to this reoccurring lesson of trying to be objective with my stuff or whatever it is that I'm doing, that when you see it when you see somebody else not able to be objective about their thing, oh, I'm like, I just got this big like sad part of me. I'm like, oh, like you don't see it, you won't see it. It's not okay. Well, let me try to do it. Like, what if you just got a different opinion? Like, what if you like you try to like
justify
it? Give them something else to it, because it's maybe one of the greater gifts that we can kind of like cull from the creative process, is like not being precious and not like it's cool because your stuff, you're always kind of precious with your own stuff, but can you allow for some criticism and some insight, into how it might be refined, right? Like,
absolutely, dude. That's the dynamic that I have with Angel that I'm like really thankful for, because like we'll send each other stuff, and when I send him something, I'm like, please, like, grade this as hard as you possibly can, because I want to make sure it's great before anybody else sees or hears it. And to having people like that in your life, you need them. You got to have them as an artist, man. 100%.
Yeah, man. What a great relationship that is for you guys.
Super grateful for it.
It's kind of like that. I mean, and you guys are peers in that way, but it's that same vibe as like, I remember when I, back in the day, a lot of people were like, hey, surround yourself with people that you feel are better than you or more proficient than you at all the things, right? So like if you're the weakest player in the room, you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Like I know that sounds weird. I remember I was like, I don't want to be the shittiest player in the, like, no. It's not about you being a shitty player. It's about like you feeling like maybe the other 3 players in the room all have something that you don't quite fully comprehend or understand. So that means there's room to grow and to evolve,
Absolutely, man. Like that humbling feeling for sure. I was telling you over text like a couple weeks ago that me and Andy shot that new single.
Yeah,
dude, being in the same room as him, like we were like miming it for a music video and stuff, but holy shit. I'm like, dude, small fish compared to that, man. Like, Jesus Christ.
I will never forget when I first saw that dude in the ESP booth eons ago, before I brought him to EMG and all that stuff. But he had EMGs in most of his guitars, I think, already. But I just remember seeing like, because there's players, and then there's great players, and then there's like fast players, and like usually you latch on, you're like, oh man, that guy, he's got like the certain phrasing, and he's got like this quickness. He might not be the fastest, he might not be the most melodic, but like I like his individual expression and this and that. And then I came across Andy, and I was like, fuck this guy.
I know. I hate him so much.
kind of fuck this guy, like, who is he to show up and be like, I will shred you into oblivion, like more arpeggios than you ever thought were possible on any particular instrument in the history of guitar, and I'm going to end it in a very sweet, memorable, melodic phrase.
Exactly. And then on top of that, he's like, now I'm going to learn how to produce and mix all my own shit. And he's unreal at that too. So I'm just like, dude, go away. Just stop it.
Truth. I'm he's kind of underrated in that realm. I'll say, like, he because in the beginning he wasn't quite there, but like it was shortly after a record or two after the self-titled maybe, or something, where he really kind of caught a groove in the self-production phase of his career. And now he's like, I would trust him. I think anybody could trust him with like what they're sending him if they wanted him to mix or master or produce or something,
No, fully agree. He's very meticulous and thorough. He's very good.
Thankfully, he's not an uptight dude. He's like one of the funniest guys too,
dude. Oh man, if he, he's fucking hilarious.
Always dropping little. And it's good because like the cultural shift is just enough different. It's just enough different.
I'm like, what'd you just call me?
What'd you just say? Yeah, dude. I remember it was like one of the second or third times he was visiting, and he was like, I need to go get some kip. I'm like, what? Kip? And he's like, a nap, sleep. I think you call it you sleep. You take a nap. He's like, I'm like, oh, kip, KIP. That's a nap. Why don't you just say nap, bro?
Dude,
why you English guys got to make it weird?
Dude. That's the next thing I want to put on a T-shirt. Why you got to make it weird?
Why you got to make it weird, man? Use the language we all share here.
Yeah,
but yeah, he's hit me to a couple little common Englishisms, I guess.
Oh, okay. Actually, I thought of another funny one. So he sent me the demo for this new single we were working on. This was like last year we started it, and the ending part was like some crazy like string skipping Andy James shit, and he sends it to me and he goes, can you double that? And I was just like, what? And then he's like, dude, it's a piece of piss. And I was just like, what'd you just call it?
What?
Yeah. And then it sends me a video of him playing it like not slow at all, just like full speed, and he goes, it's a piece of piss. And I was like, no, it's not.
No, it's not. I don't even know. I still don't even know what you mean. Are you saying that it's a piece of piss?
Yeah.
Like, is that what it is?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like it's nothing. He's trying to say that it's no big deal. Is what
It
he's
ain't
saying.
shit. Yeah,
It ain't
exactly.
shit. Fuck.
Kills me, man.
I love. Can't be bothered. Can't be bothered. Oh,
Yeah, that was a good one.
mate, he couldn't be. He can't be bothered. You know, I'm like, I can't even do the accent at all.
I won't even attempt it on this podcast. I'll do it at home off air, but yeah, dude, I can't wait till he hears this. It's good shit.
Oh yeah, dude. I was just chatting with him this morning. He's one of my faves. Like, get to random messenger and just catch up around what's going on. You know,
Love it.
But well, I should ask you. You want to tell us a little bit about your pick history, your relationship to guitar picks, and like where you started and where you're at now?
I wish I had more of an interesting history for you.
Okay.
I am so bland and boring. Actually, I've got them all here, but I have played these heavy black celluloids ever since I switched to Dunlop. That's front back, and they have never steered me wrong. Anytime I get my fingers on something else, it's why you got to make it weird. It's like we got to make it weird, but yeah, that's what I've played on everything. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I'm so boring. I'm sure you have
it's
people,
cool.
yeah, I'm sure you have people on here that have a much more in-depth answer for you, but when I find something that works for me and suits my direction and my sound and my vision for something, I don't change. I'm like an old man. I've already got what I want.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
My man.
Yeah. So they're Dunlop celluloids, and they're like what, medium or heavy or?
They're heavy. Yeah.
Heavy.
Mhm.
And when you first started playing, though, what do you remember about your first couple of guitar picks? Was it like a celluloid of some kind in the very beginning too, or?
Oh, dude, I used to use like money, like coins,
Yeah.
when I didn't have them. Because like I remember, I grew up in like such a small town. We didn't even have a music store in my town or anything. So my dad, when I first started playing, I was 10, and he like busted out like the old acoustic guitars and stuff he had in the basement, and there was like one just torn to shit guitar pick in there, and that's what I learned on. I graduated to using nickels after that, and then I eventually got like, it was like, you know, if you pick up like a Fender Squire and there's like just the super flimsy picks that come with that, I had like a few of those, and that's what I was using through like 7th 8th grade, and then I started to take things a little more seriously, and then I actually have always played Dunlop picks, except for a brief amount of time I was working with Intune guitar picks. That was my first like custom guitar picks endorsement before you brought me on board on Dunlop. But it's always been heavy celluloid, like throughout, aside from the money.
Well, it's hard to you know, talk any shit about it, because you got a guy like Al Di Meola still playing this,
man,
like extra heavy celluloid or something like that, or heavy celluloid. And like he might, at least at one time, he was the most awarded guitar player on the planet, you know,
dude.
So I mean, it's like I don't ever really balk at anybody that has that real simple guitar pick choice, because also because in the beginning, I mean, I remember finding out that Dimebag played Tortex greens, and I think Chuck Schuldiner too, and it was just like through through multiple Guitar World magazines that I eventually claimed that information for myself, and I was like, if those guys are using just like a basic pick, then I mean, who needs a Jazz 3? Who needs a triangle? Those guys are supreme players. So yeah. So it's and then, you know, you go through the years, and it's really interesting, because people you think that would play a Jazz 3 sometimes like don't play a Jazz 3. Like I was just talking to Tim Miller, and I was kind of like, I didn't know what he played actually, and I was like, so tell me your deal, and he's like, Fender picks. It's like, you know, like
I got them in the bottom of my cereal box. Like,
yeah, like I mean, like I think he's similar though. I think he's like he's more maybe a Fender medium or Fender heavy, something like that. But like, it's a standard shape. It's like nothing too crazy, you know.
Man, there is beauty in simplicity, for sure. And I think it's really easy. Oh man, I'm so boring. But I like I find it, at least years ago, that it was easy to get caught up in like, oh man, I need to have that in order to like be this good or sound this way or something like that. And it's just really not that true. Like you can make things happen with what you got for sure, within reason. But
totally, 100%. I think that and this is something that is a reoccurring little theme that's kind of come up in this time, especially because there's a little bit of a like, oh, I'm at home and I'm bored, right? Like, I got all this extra time on my hands. Like, what am I going to do with it? And I mean, if you think back to like before cell phones, and I don't know, how old are you now? 20?
Actually, take a guess.
Well, I was gonna say like you're like 26, maybe 27.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because it's the simple math in my my thing. But I mean, you did. When was your first cell phone? How old were you?
I was 14.
14. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. My first cell phone came when I was like, I got it in 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
You probably had a cell phone before I did.
Yeah, man, I did. Well,
but I'm 43. I'll be 44 this year, which it's weird for me to say those words, but because I don't necessarily feel that way. But
yeah, you don't come across that way at all, man.
Thanks. Well, I mean, part of me doesn't mind, because I do. I think there's a lot of grace in aging well. I think there's like that. But there's always going to be a little bit of like, I'm not as young as I used to be, type of vibe. But I digress on that and say that when you're a kid and you're kind of like sent out to play and you're like, I'm bored. Like, what are we going to do?
Yeah.
You're hanging out with a homie or you're by yourself. That boredom actually incites creativity.
It really does.
Right?
It really does, man.
So I would say also too, like where we're at, and I found myself in this way too. What's part of my approach with writing music is to try to not make a lot of decisions around it and just kind of like just jam with stuff and then kind of collect it and put it together and arrange it without a whole lot of preconceived notion of what it needs to be before I get started. Yeah. In the same way that, if you have everything at your disposal, you might not even like, I don't even know what to do. It's like so much.
Dude, oh my God, I rant about this so often. You just open a can of worms, man.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's a really good conversation to remind players of, is because oftentimes when you have the least amount of options, the least amount of choices,
forces you
into the state. You're like, well, this is all I got, so I just need to get moving.
Yeah. Right? Oh my God, man. I preach that so much. The first example that comes to mind is when you go online to get like, let's say drum samples or like a sample pack, and they're like 1,000 kick samples. And I was like, give me 3.
Please, God,
please stop it. But yeah, dude, it's so true. And like, it really forces you. Actually, a cool challenge would be, if you had writer's block, is to be like, I'm going to use this guitar tone I've never used before, and I need to make a song around this one tone. That's my challenge for the day. And you'll be blown away with what you can come up with.
That's the vibe right there. I 100% agree. And that's one way that I like to use the fractal a bit, is because I'm not really into using I have used the Axe Edit a little bit, but I'm not one to nerd out and dive deep and figure out the cab sims, because I look at that and I go, no, I don't want to do homework. I don't like, I never have liked it. Ever.
Dude.
I like learning, but I like learning in the way that is like, hey, press this button, you get something awesome. Press that button, you get this other kind of awesome. Okay, ready, go. Like, that's why, a guitar amplifier, it's a limited amount of options. I can kind of understand the ins and the outs. But with the fractal, it's so wonderful. That's one of the other little kind of wild card ways of writing is like, I'll get something that I think is cool, and then by the time I get to the guitar, I'll oftentimes just like spin the dial. Oh, that I've never used that. That's interesting. Let's see if I can make that work in the track, and you'd be surprised. Sometimes you have to alter a little this or a little that, but like there's you just wouldn't have made that choice otherwise. Because otherwise, I'll go to my favorite factor, my favorite default patches. Like I have one that Misha made for me. It's got the super sick lead and a super sick rhythm, and I'm just like, I could never. That box could only contain that sound.
And I'd be so happy.
I'd be so happy. But the fact that it contains like 743,000 million other sounds, like I should probably try 3 other ones.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'll add 3 to my catalog before I die.
Exactly,
it, man.
I should try. So yeah, I think that's just a kind of an interesting place, and I think, sometimes it's that way just with the project in general, right? Like with the project, like I almost think that as I've gotten older, that's been more of the work above it and beyond anything is, can I simplify what it is that I'm up to? What can I take out? Because it's actually, as a young person, I thought, oh, the challenges, like how many fucking notes can you put in that bitch,
right?
How can you slay? Can you do the thing that you see Vi and Satriani or whoever else do, and but not fully registering that they actually very strategically set that thing up so when you hear the flurry of notes, you don't really register that there was this big long buildup. You didn't register that there was all these other elements that contributed to that feeling like the way it did. And so you can, it's so easy to overdo it.
Oh, it's so, yeah, absolutely. I can attest to that for my first 4 years of YouTube. Dude, like that's so true. And like, I'm really seeing the beauty and simplicity, less is more, and the importance of dynamic. Like that's what creates like a musical adventure for your ears. And that was like the most high thing I've ever said in my life. No, it's so true.
You hit it on the head though. I mean, and it's funny too, because like, I found it in a different way too, because, since I started teaching yoga, I've now logged like hundreds of hours, right, of practicing, and teaching and creating, sequences. So the interesting thing about Vinyasa yoga, if you're not familiar, is that, it's an open source thing. It's like music in a way that but it has its own form. It has its like commonalities. It has its things that you kind of expect. But as a teacher of it, you're not beholden to anything in particular, like absolute, like, so the people that come to a Vinyasa yoga class, they want a few things familiar for sure. There's got to be something in there, but you could be drastically different from the next person that calls their class a Vinyasa class too.
Love that.
So which is really cool, and it leaves a lot of room for interpretation and for creativity's sake. But like what we learn, especially as players, when we learn, like, I mean, okay, I'll step back again. This is a longer explanation. I'm sorry, but we don't.
Oh, good, man. Dude, just go.
But the vibe, I remember thinking, okay, like pop songs, super simple. Like I remember, like in my early musical days, I was like, I don't want to play. I'm not even going to try to learn any of those simple pop songs because they're easy. Like physically, they could be easy to. The simpler lines are not as crazy as Meshuggah or Pantera or something else like that, right?
Yeah.
So my mind was set into this like that place, and then until I actually was put in a position where somebody's like, hey, just like just do like a simple like like vamping chord progression thing that just like accompanies like what's going on, in not a solo and not like trying to like hog the the spotlight. And I was like,
yeah,
maybe I don't know how to do that. Like, maybe that's harder than I thought it was.
It's hard, man.
I'm fucking trying, man, and it's not very good, to be honest. Like, and so it kind of came around to in a different way in yoga for me, in 2 different ways. One of them being that as a new teacher, as I graduated and was given like a certificate, they were like, oh, okay, now you can go teach in the world. And I'm like, okay, I'll do my best. And the initial thing, which is parallel to like being a fresh guitar player that knows how to like record their own songs, let's say, you know, like a similar comparison, is like a young guitar player might want to just like put every trick that they got in every song and every solo, because you want to be seen as impressive. You want to be, you know, be technological. You want to feel like you're fancy and the whole deal, and appreciated for having some high level proficiency, where a new teacher will do something similar a lot of times. Like, oh, they've been to enough classes where the teacher was really, or felt like they were really creative with their sequencing and what they had to offer.
Right.
And so they're like, okay, I'm going to make this class fancy. You know, it's going to be like, you're not even going to know what's coming. It's going to be super cool. And, but what I found out, and oftentimes if, you know, these younger teachers, when they do wake up to it, they find out that just nonstop creativity, nonstop unfamiliarity isn't actually enjoyable.
No, that's a really good analogy. That entire,
Right.
yeah, that's a really interesting way of thinking about that.
So I had to learn that, hey, you know, like, have a framework that is digestible and familiar to some degree, and how you shape the kind of like the little bits and pieces in between, and how you transition, you know, like how your drum fill is and how it sets up the next part. That's actually more important than how technical your any one riff is. Right.
Mhm.
Like, that's way more. If the transition, if the song flows and I can remember the melody, hey man, like, we're winning something right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's that quality. And then secondarily, I will speak to this in that I create playlists for my yoga classes too.
Nice.
Right. So I have multiple different styles of or kind of vibes that I will curate a playlist too. But one of my favorites is kind of like the pop rock, hip hop, like kind of conglomerate mix. And I noticed I go to other kind of newer teachers and they'd be like, it's hip hop yoga. And it's just like hip hop, 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 hip hop. Class is over. And I was like, oh Jesus, like that. I like hip hop, but that was like too much hip hop. And like,
Mhm.
and I couldn't put my finger on it at first. When I really started diving into making my own playlist, it's like, oh, it's the dynamic quality, right?
Right.
It's like, it's the contrast between this and that. If I start off here and I take you here and then bring you back down here, that we went somewhere, we did something. But if
Yeah.
it's all here, then it becomes a
Yeah,
monocrop, right? It just like there's nothing to contrast or compare it to.
exactly.
So music and writing music, wow, like when we wake up, we're like, oh, I need to, you know, save my tricks and put a couple tricks here, a couple tricks there. I'm gonna, you know, you find these ways to contrast yourself, and you're excellent at it. So I don't need to tell you
Thank you,
about
man.
that, but you get what I'm saying, right?
Man, I loved that. Like, yeah, that was a big analogy for the importance of dynamic, and the fact that you've gone to other yoga classes and stuff and been like, oh man, like I can't quite put my finger on it, but like, what did I not like about this? Figured it out, and you're like, how can I apply that to make mine better?
Correct.
That is like so parallel with songwriting. It's not even funny. Like, that's super true. And then the whole you did a visual for us, so anyone watching the video, like if you have a song that is just all one way through like this, it'd be like throwing the limiter super far down on when you're mastering a song. You need dynamic because it takes you somewhere. You know, you can bring it down low, and that makes the parts that impact that big sexy hook that you wrote is gonna hit so much harder.
Yeah. Well, and the you just touched on it right there too. So audibly, right? Like for, and it's still kind of a thing, but it's more of a conversation that's happening in the metal community now. But like for a good while, like every new metal record that come out, it was like a loudness war, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh my God. For so long, man.
for so long, and still, like, and that's part of the challenge of that medium is, can I create something that's not necessarily, like overall, like, even if it's an album like Chaos Sphere. Okay, if you go back to Meshuggah Chaos Sphere, that thing is on fucking it's not on 10, it's on 22, like
Yeah.
on 33, right?
The record sounds massive.
It's, but like, there's some dynamic qualities to it, right? And that band, even you can see as they've gone on, they've learned a lot too. And even the most like kind of like visceral death metal band stuff have had to find a way to add dynamic in either the recording or the mixing or the mastering or something, even if the music is constant like fuck, you know, it's just one big long fuck, like for the 40 minutes. It's great, but they've had to find some way, because otherwise it tears you down, it rips you, it wears you out essentially. Right?
100%. And yeah, dude, like that same thing for like if you just are nonstop shredding with no like melodic break or build into it, those parts have so much less impact.
Correct.
It's all about the foreplay.
Bro, I have to say, there's nothing worse to me than somebody that like takes themselves seriously and basically just shreds all the time.
Dude.
Like I'm not naming names because that would be horrible, but they're out there. And you know, I send love to them, and I hope that that somebody, you know, sparks a. So I hope they. I pray for for the gods of contrast to be to like come down and manifest themselves in front of them, and like, oh wow, dude, I should totally take it easy for a while.
I love the characters you do. You're like, dude, oh my god, because we all know that guy.
Yeah. Oh man, I've been him. I've been him.
Yeah, I've been that guy. I've been that guy too.
So it's like, you know, I say it in jest because you know, I have personal experiences with.
It's so relatable.
So I'm curious, like, what do you like do like a workout? Do you like what keeps you going, especially while you're at home? Like now, I mean, you're always mostly at home anyway, but like, do you have like a schedule outside of your music and creativity? Do you have like a workout? Do you have like some sort of physical activity or practice?
Do I have a life?
Yeah. Do you do anything other than play guitar, bro?
I have no friends. I never leave my basement. Yeah. And I actually did a Q&A for my YouTube that goes up tomorrow. So I got to like think more in depth about this stuff, but I'm really into fitness, and it sucks because like I'm a gym guy. So I have been struggling to like hit that same peak of like engagement at home. It's definitely a big adjustment, but I love like roller skating and stuff. So I've been lucky enough to do that. That's been like a really good outdoor workout, just to like get out and about in my neighborhood and stuff. But I tried a new, I don't know if you've ever heard of Athlean X, but it's like a pretty big fitness YouTube channel. And I just tried their at-home workout. My gym partner, Adam, him and I have worked out together for 8 years, and he sent it to me and he's like, you have to try this. And I'm so mad at him right now because it's horrible. But yeah, I've been trying like the at-home workouts and stuff just to kind of keep that, man, that helps my mental creativity and stuff so much when I can get that like physical outlet. So I've had that. I unfortunately haven't been able to like get out and do like photos and stuff as much. That's another like big creative outlet for me, is I have a passion for like visual art. So I love like doing the crazy photo shoots and planning those out, like the ones we did with like the smoke bombs and all the levitation shots and stuff. I know a lot of guitar players don't do those, but it's just like something I have so much fun planning those out, like scouting a sick location, coming up with like the whole vibe and the visual. And 3 of the most talented photographers I've ever worked with are all Toronto based. So like,
dude,
yeah, I'm super lucky to work with those guys. So they're like, I usually hit them up and I'm like, man, you want to do something insane? And then that's when we plan like those full shoot days. And they're so much fun. Like those, I look forward to that every year. It's become like a tradition now. And other than that, while I've been at home, I've been playing video games that I have been waiting to play for 5+ years. The video games I bought 5 years ago that were still in the plastic that I shouldn't have bought. I finally got around to doing those, and I've been planning out kind of like new visual stuff, like the music video that I was supposed to come down and shoot in March. I'm really stoked on that. I'll send you some of like the visual concepts I came up with.
Oh, cool!
But I'm really excited. Yeah, how about you?
Oh, I was saying, firstly, I dig the photo I align with you on that visual concept with,
Thank you.
Especially if and when I apply myself to a new project, and I'm kind of slowly doing that for myself with the podcast and with yoga and stuff like that. So, and I like you obviously have some of the best photographers around, because
I'm so lucky.
dude, like you definitely have like very consistent flow of visually striking and uh you know photos and scenes that kind of make you have to kind of stop sometimes and like study it for a second to be
Oh, that's
sure
the
you know what's
goal.
going on, right? Like which so I love that. I love that, where it's like I know that I like it right away, but then I have to give it a double and triple take to make sure I'm seeing what I think I'm seeing.
Oh, I got such an important point. Thank you, first of all.
Yeah.
I saw a girl I was seeing a while ago. I'd watch her go through her Instagram one time, and she would just like double tap photos, like scroll, double tap, scroll, double tap. And I was like, "Did you even look at those?" And she's like, No. It's my friend's photo. I was gonna like it anyways." And I was like, "Damn, okay, so that's how people use their phone." I was like,
Sometimes.
how can I create something that is gonna make people stop for less than 0.5 seconds or for more than 0.5 seconds? And I have kind of like, my friend Chris calls it grid OCD, but looking at like how your YouTube channel or how your Instagram looks as a whole, when people go to look at the overall aesthetic of it, I'm kind of like hung up on making that look really like nice and organized and stuff too. So
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's great. I mean, it
thank you,
shows.
man.
It really does.
Thank you.
Yeah, you asked me what I've been doing. I guess it's been pretty tough. I normally go to hot yoga a lot. I was teaching at a hot yoga place here too, so I was getting pretty regular. There's not much you can do in the world that is equivalent to a hot yoga class.
I've never done one. I've been dying to try it.
And it's like, and they're not all completely equal, but like the one thing is you're gonna sweat balls. Like
that's
that's the one thing you know for sure. They're all different, in the sense that, like, because of teachers and how they interpret things and how the space is held, and the container is created. But and like the classic hot yoga, which would be like Bikram yoga, which is the douchebag that like there's like a couple of documentaries around that he like abused his power and was like rapey and blah blah blah. Like, not
Oh geez, man.
Bikram yoga has got a bad name. It's still like a decent practice, but thankfully hot yoga has evolved past that guy and that thing, and you can do hot vinyasa, and there's like different little kind of containers, different ways of experiencing that. So I haven't really been able to do that, and my regular regimen is that I would be at probably 3 to 5 yoga classes of some kind a week, and at least 2 or 3 of those would be hot, so I'd be really sweating a lot.
Yeah.
And then usually once a week I would go to some sort of there's like a hot springs here close to me in LA, so like do hot cold therapy, where it's sauna or like in this case, they have a hot springs there.
Yeah.
So sit in the hot springs for a while and really loosen up and expand all the tissues. And then they have the coldest cold plunge like I've ever experienced anywhere at this place down the street from me. And you go right into that and try to stay in as long as you can, and keep your breath from going like that's kind of the goal, right? It's like you come out of this super relaxed, like hot, like environment into like wide awake, like ice cold.
Oh my God.
Yeah. But like the health benefit is incredible. Like the way it reduces inflammation in the body is like, it's unbelievable. Like the lightness of being, especially after you've worked out a bunch in the week and you feel like the body kind of needs a little bit of rest and repair. The way you can kind of get a similar effect, like if you take a really hot bath. Like if you're like, just get into a bath and you stay in there for like 15 minutes or something, maybe some Epsom salts or something. And then as you start draining the bath, and as that's draining, you just turn the shower on cold as it gets. and stay in there for a minute and a half or 2 minutes, you know, and try to breathe slow without going right, like, because it's like it takes your breath away a little bit at first, right? So you kind of have to like, and you want to give yourself just enough time, but the expansion and contraction of the tissues helps release lactic acid and all the kind of the things that make you feel sore, and takes the nervous system into a place of rest and digest. They call it the parasympathetic or the parasympathetic nervous system. So normally we're in the sympathetic, like right now, the fight or flight scenario is like what they consider sympathetic nervous system. And so it's like, oh, you know, oh shit, like I gotta, and we're kind of like on edge a lot of our day. We drink coffee, we drink a stimulant, and we kind of keep ourselves on the edge of like, and so that's part of why society is kind of a little bit on edge and a little bit like aggro, right? Because we're you know, we a comment on Facebook is triggering the same thing that like you know, eons ago a saber-toothed tiger would trigger in us. You know, like we're like, like the guy said the thing, and but really there's no actual present danger, but we're acting like that. So we jack our system up in this crazy way. So finding any way that we can get the body back to a parasympathetic situation where it's the rest and digest, and the body wants to like repair itself, is kind of my jam. It's kind of like where I'm always like, so yoga and meditation are a part of that. And, you know, so I'm having a little bit of a struggle. I'm still doing yoga like pretty much every day, and I can give myself a pretty good workout because I'm very well versed in it, but there's always a little something like when you have somebody there training with you. Right?
Huge. That's
the way
that
pushes you, right?
Yeah, man. Why have I never picked your brain on this stuff before? Like that actually is like, so man, we went from hot springs to saber-toothed tigers to that. It was good, man. Actually, every time the classic, like when you train legs and stuff, like your legs are just like destroyed and stuff after. Yeah. And so sore from lactic acid buildup. I actually am really interested to try that. The way we don't do it in Canada was be in a jacuzzi and then get out and roll around in the snow.
Totally. That's the vibe.
That's the vibe.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that one of the interesting things that I've only recently learned, and I know I watch Rogan a lot. I think everybody that's into podcasts probably does at some point, but it's such a informative, you know, platform, obviously, because he has some of the greatest people on there. And for the longest time, I wouldn't watch or listen to the MMA ones because I'm not really into the fighting. Like I don't mind watching some of the fights because I do have an appreciation for the ability. There's just something like I don't want to overly glorify like fighting for whatever reason in my life. It doesn't feel like great, but the practice and the discipline it takes to
the discipline is immense.
What? Like it's crazy, right? So, but he's had a few different people on there, and I don't remember this guy's name, so I won't even try to tell you who it is, but I could try to find the video and pass it to you at some point. He had a fighter on there that was telling him about how he trains and how he's figured out that he can train every day, but the difference between because like especially he's kind of talking about in context to MMA fighting that a lot of people or he and in context with people who do a lot of CrossFit. So like CrossFit is kind of designed to get to your max in each workout, like, you know, and kind of exhaust the body in that way. But he says, like, you know, even these people that are professional CrossFitters can't sustain a daily workout like that. Right. Because you go to your 90 percentile, like of ability, and then you end up super sore, and you have to, your recovery time. And that's why we do arms today and we do legs tomorrow. Right.
Progressive overload.
Yeah. So this guy really, really hit it home. And he said, look, if you were training to like your 70% rate, like daily, and then like, once a week or once every other week, you went into your 80 or 90%, and then you would be able to train all the time and you wouldn't be sore. So, and the people that are training all the time, every day, and don't have to take the breaks because they made
Yeah.
themselves super sore and they're like, oh, I can't even do legs or back for 3 or 4 days. They're not getting in the same amount of hours. And like when you ultimately, like, you know, you said it earlier, it's just like, you want to get good at something, you just have to do it, right? You have to do it. And it's time on the job ultimately. So if you want to improve at something, find the way that you can do it all the time sustainably.
That's
Right?
the key.
That's the key word, and that's the key thing. So I had shifted, even though I'm not in any type of amazing physical fitness. I'm in relatively good fitness because of how much I love yoga and how much I love to be active. But I mean, I've got 20 pounds I could lose easy, you know, and after this, like 35 or something like this.
quarantine baby.
life.
Yeah.
I did order burritos like multiple days in a row. And sometimes it was breakfast and dinner for burritos.
Dude, Postmate all my meals. I didn't even get dressed today. I got dressed. I'm not wearing pants.
It's amazing. Well, we're in the same vibe there, because I love Postmates too. Postmates like can just maybe marry me. I don't know. I love food. So
first sponsor of the podcast. Let's go.
Come on, Postmates. We'll get you all free delivery. You listen to Players Pick podcast. Use this code.
Yeah, that's a dream. That's a dream.
But that's a little insight I just thought was really, it was valuable to me. It was like, oh, like, even though I'm not the CrossFit guy that's trying to train every day in that way, I like that, because especially in yoga, a lot of yoga is kind of fresh and new to the majority of the people that are doing it. They're like kind of coming in, and they're not necessarily taking like brand new beginner classes where somebody's walking them through every little thing. And there's literally hundreds of things in a class that, like, you can't possibly get it right, like scientifically right, in that class. So it's important to remind, for me as a teacher, to remind students, people that young and old, new and experienced, to practice today so that you can practice tomorrow and the next day and the next day like that. I thought that was really good insight.
I'm almost positive I've heard that podcast episode before that you referenced, because me and my workout partner Adam, that I mentioned earlier in this podcast, we used to train at the gym till like absolute failure all the time when we were younger, and like you just couldn't progress the next day for that exact reason. So it's all about like the sustainability model, and that can be applied to, you know, not only just your fitness, but like, man, I could apply that to my YouTube stuff as well. Like, if you want to work 12 plus hours every day on YouTube videos, you're going to burn yourself out. You got to like come up with 100%. A sustainable work model. Absolutely.
I just found, I realized that I had it saved. I'm going to send you.
Oh yeah, please do.
The clip. It's just a Joe Rogan clip, but it's this guy, Firas Zahabi. And this is just the one little 20-minute section out of the whole thing. But
it's a highlight. Cool.
Yeah, it's how to work out smarter. Right.
Love it.
I mean, I think it's the same with like you said, like you can apply this. You don't want to, you don't have to apply it to actually physically working out. You can apply it to your mental gymnastics too, and the way you approach life. That, you know, like to go 100% all out all the time and always be grasping and always be grinding, you're going to grind yourself into a pulp, right? And you're and injury and mistakes, like, are, you know, just love it when you get tired, man. Like when you get tired and your form, it falls, like whether it actually be in the gym or if it's actually in public with you know, relationships or any number of things.
Of course. Yeah. Right? It's like something always gives, and that's why like balance is the most key thing.
Yeah.
Oh dude, yeah, I'm so glad that you referenced that podcast. It's such a good one.
I'm glad that you remember. And I'm sure that you'll get something. I get something. I've watched it like 4 or 5 times.
No, I need to rewatch that. Are you familiar with Gary Vee at all?
That sounds familiar. Is he a workout guy?
No, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's an entrepreneur. Like really big like social media. He's just like a social media beast. Teaches people how to like grow rapidly. basically his whole model is like learn to work for yourself and like how to like kind of make that stuff happen. I read his book. He wrote a book called Crushing It, and I read it like the last year that I was working at my job before I quit last year, and it like pushed me so hard to like make that transition happen. Eventually did. But his kind of model that he preaches all the time is like grind, 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 grind. And I'm like, I agree with that to like within reason.
Right.
Yeah, because it's not sustainable at all. Like,
Well, I really, so there's a part of me that you have to experiment. It's a personal process, right? And you have to practice. So you have to find out what it's like. And I think this is just true in life in general, right? You have to kind of explore the extremes a little bit so you know where the middle is.
Right.
And that's your balance point, quite literally. Like if you were to only go to the center of a teeter-totter and only experience that, then you'd be like, this balance thing is no big deal. Like I'm just standing in the center of the fulcrum, and it can go up and down, but I'm right here. So, I mean, you know, like you wouldn't have the visceral experience of what it means to be at the lowest point or at the highest point. And both the low and the high tend to be generally are the unsustainable points, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And there tend to be brief moments like in our like, oh man, that's why depression and being low and like feeling inert and not able and not like motivated can be so brutal. Like, but the reminder, like, oh, this will pass, and this is just a part of the journey. And if I don't experience this, then I won't know what really works for me. You know, like I need to experience the darkness to know the blissfulness of light, so to speak. You know, in that realm. And
that
so,
could be in a Marvel movie, man. That exactly.
It probably is. I'm probably
good.
ripping him off. Probably something that Thanos said or something.
Yeah, dude, my man. That is so damn true, man. And it goes back to our whole conversation earlier about like dynamic, and like you have to experience different levels of things to like really in this instance with life to like appreciate the stability of like your balance point, because I'm sure a lot of people are possibly going through like a lower point right now, but they know it will pass and things will get back to normal.
Yeah. I like my probably my all-time favorite like teacher. I wish I would have been able to meet him or live in the same time, but Alan Watts is probably my all-time favorite. Like I've got a lot of favorite teachers and people that I've learned from philosophically or whatever, but he is famously noted for kind of telling the story of like, look, if you were to try and organize everything in this room that you're in to be up with no down, how would that work out? Right?
Oh,
like
I love
you you could put everything on the ceiling, but there's still this like opposing space, right? That allows that to be up.
Mm-hmm.
So without having a contrast, like you don't, and you can put it this way too, like without you telling me your opinion on something, I don't necessarily know what mine is.
Wow. Yeah, that's very true.
I don't really like it. You tell Cole, you have to tell me like, man, I love coffee or whatever it is. So like, you tell me you love something and that's your favorite thing. And like, this is an opinion and you're like, you feel strongly about it. And in the process of me hearing that, I can then only then actually form my opinion in response, in relationship to.
Yeah.
Cause otherwise I'm just like, I don't know, coffee's all right. You know,
coffee's
like,
yeah, it's whatever.
You know, but
man, that's so true though.
Yeah, and we find that's the state of relationship, you know, and kind of the Zen art of relating, and it's, you know, to other people, but to other things and to different experiences and to our emotions, this versus that, and like the beauty of life, kind of, I think, kind of like lands in that acceptance of the contrast and knowing that, hey, like, and especially maybe even more so when things are good. Okay, cool. You know, like take it with a grain of salt. Things are good for right now. It won't be this way always. This is not sustainable. Like this is
Yeah.
too. This is, and not to say that you can't have a really great ongoing sustainable life that is mostly good, because you can. I mean, that's kind of a lot, but there's always going to be challenges, always going to be hurdles. You're never going to arrive. It's just like there's no arriving, you know.
And that's what keeps life interesting, man. That's what life's all about, the experiences. If you never experience anything, you'll be sad because it's boring.
Agreed. Yeah. If you don't have any struggle or any contrast, anything to overcome, then it's like, okay, well, everything's great for you. All right, next.
Cool.
Like,
yeah. I love it, man. That's true. I love talking to you so much, dude. You're so insightful.
Oh man, thank you. I love talking to you too. I speaking of which, I got to wrap it up a little bit. So I want to ask you, what have you been listening to lately? And is there anything, is there any artists or players that you might want to shout out and let the world know more about?
Ooh, let me pull up my Spotify here really quick.
Could be big artists, could be small artists.
Let me see my liked songs. Okay, so I've been into listening to a lot of Post Malone lately.
Really?
Yeah, man, I am okay. So we touched on pop music. I know it's not fully pop music, but has a lot of pop aspects to it. I have been fascinated with instrumental pop songs for like the past year, because the production that goes into those. We were talking earlier about you're like, I don't want to learn to play pop. It's so easy. It's easy. It's simple. Boring. Dude, pop writing and production fascinates me. It is like there are so many layers. So I've really been into Post Malone. There's an artist I did a live show with called Illenium, and I played with him this past October, and his kind of whole genre really takes away from this like really intense like pop production. It's like melodic dubstep, future bass. I'm into a lot of electronic music, and I love applying those elements to like what I'm writing. So some of those artists are like Illenium, Said the Sky, and Slander are three that I'm really into. And then for big pop artists, The Weeknd right now, and Dua Lipa just dropped a fire album too, which I've been really enjoying as well.
What was the last one? To Dua Lipa?
Dua Lipa. Yeah.
Dua Lipa. Okay.
Yeah,
I know The Weeknd. I'll check out Dua Lipa.
Yeah.
The whole album, you saying it's good?
Dude, yeah, the whole album's fantastic.
Okay.
How about you, man?
Let's see. Lately, like I'll pull mine up. Like, I know, like the album that is the most prominent in my head right now actually is the new Inter Shikari. Are you familiar?
Dude, I haven't listened to them in like so long. Whoa, okay.
They just dropped a new record.
Let's go.
It's called Nothing Is True and Everything Is Possible.
Love that.
They're one of my favorite favorite artists, I would just say, because on so many levels, and you could probably know why, because the conglomeration of the sounds and the styles.
They innovated hard,
dude. Like they kind of were like a hardcore group from the UK that was into Europop and like dubstep and Euro. I don't know. It's like they were into all these things, and they found a way to make it work early on. But the evolution of the sound and the style has only gotten better. It's only gotten better and better and better. Hookier, heavier, more political. Like, how are you guys so perfect? Like, and how are you guys not bigger in the States? I think it's probably because people aren't as cued into like the multi-genre and like maybe British accent. I don't know what keeps them from being bigger here, but
man, I am excited to listen to that, because I haven't thought about that band in a really long time, and I used to be so into them. Like, oh, that's exciting.
Super good. So that record and what's the other one? I listened to the new Incubus Trustfall B-sides. That was pretty decent. But Tom Minch. Are you familiar with Tom Minch?
I'm not.
Or Mish, Misch. He is just you have to check out Tom Misch.
Tom Misch, okay.
Yeah. He is you've probably heard a few of his tunes because he's like a pop. he can sing and play, but he's also like this instrumental like pop guitar player that does a bunch of cool collabs with other people, and sometimes they sing, sometimes nobody sings, and it's just like a music. I don't know. He's
Sounds
incredible.
right up my alley, man.
Yeah, I highly recommend him. And then I'll say, like, not. I mean, I've been listening to the new Intro Not and the new Ages records, which are recent releases, and I really like those. But I somehow missed this band called Sown.
Okay.
And the album is actually not the latest one that I'm super hyped on. It's an album from 2014 called Tremors, and it's a pop experimental kind of thing. It's not guitar real centric or anything, but like just the recording techniques and the lyrics are really good. I love how I love it when a good lyricist
It's a big difference, man.
puts together something that like ignites your imagination with the words just right, and it's set in married with a really great music bed. I don't know, man. I'm impressed by that album so much.
Oh man, I'll listen to anything because of that like song palette strategy I mentioned earlier in this podcast. It like helps me big time with that. I love writing down ideas.
I really like. Thanks for bringing that strategy up too, because
Yeah, of course.
I think that's a really cool. I think that'll probably help some people kind of like find their way out of a stuck place, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Man, I know for a fact it helped me, and like, yeah, I think a lot of people could get or benefit from that.
Amazing.
Sure.
Well, dude, I appreciate your time, Cole. I'm going to cut it off here and get to rendering and editing and my favorite parts of the podcast.
Dude, don't worry. You'll have a guy for that once Postmates sponsors the podcast, and you're all
right.
good.
That's true.
Yeah. Chris, thank you so much for having me, dude. I love you. I love talking to you. This was great.
I love you too, Cole, man. Thanks so much for being such a great supporter